Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a real special guest here at the studio of TV21 Austria, and it is William Garfield Walker. It's so nice having you here.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be here.
William, would you like to introduce yourself to the people who may not know you yet?
Well, I'm William Garfield Walker, and I'm a conductor and a composer, originally from the US and currently living in Vienna.
Last time we met, it was at the 10th anniversary of TV21. It was in Gerasdorf, and a few months passed already. What has happened since then?
Yeah, since then, quite a lot has happened. I've had a few concerts, including one recently with the Nova Orchestra Wien at the Musikverein. There have been also trips to the US, to Chicago, and to other cities in the US, and it's just been a very busy time and a lot of composing as well during this time. Yeah.
And I know for a fact that you won lots of prizes in the meantime.
Oh, I've won a prize here or there.
Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so there was the Schulte Foundation. It's a foundation based in the US that is based for honoring George Schulte, who was a famous conductor of the 20th century. He made recordings with the Vienna Philharmonic, and he's remembered very much for many different recordings today of operatic literature and symphonic literature, but also for being the chief conductor of the Chicago Symphony for a very long time.
So before we continue talking about the future, I want to take a turn to your past. When did you first discover music as your passion?
Yeah, for me, I found out that I enjoyed music very early, actually, when I was, a small child. But it wasn't until my teenage years that I took it more seriously and that I thought, okay, this is something that I'd like to do with the rest of my life.
Do you wish that you would have started earlier?
No, I think that it was good for me, and I think probably for a lot of people to have first a childhood. Not to say anything against the colleagues who did start very, very early, but for me personally, it was very nice to have a childhood first, exploring many different avenues of life, and then to say, okay, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
So you're not only a conductor, but you're also an instrumentalist. What do you play?
I played the cello as my first instrument. That was my first main instrument. But at the same time as I played cello, I learned saxophone. And so I did that for a number of years as well, jazz saxophone and cello. But at the same time, because I knew that I was interested in composition, and I just wanted to know how everything worked. And you can learn, from a theoretical standpoint, how these instruments work. But I thought that it would be more practical to also know how they work from experience. So I learned how to play by teaching myself and by taking lessons, the bassoon, horn, palkin, so timpani, and a few other instruments as well, including piano and organ and different things. And so, yeah, I played many different instruments, but my main ones were cello and saxophone.
Can you give us a little rundown of your educational path?
Yeah, so after starting in high school or not starting in high school, but starting, before, and then really taking it seriously in the high school years, I went to the Interlochen Arts Academy in Michigan, which is a fantastic boarding school in Upper Michigan, for all of the arts, basically, for film, for dance, for drama, for visual arts, for many different things, including, of course, music. And that was a great opportunity to have exposure to all of these art forms, which is very inspirational and something that you can take into your musical studies and musical life further. Then I studied in Chicago at the Chicago College of Performing Arts, cello. I got my bachelor's degree there. And then I went to the Royal College of Music in London, where I also studied cello and then conducting as well with Michael Rosewall, the opera conductor there. And then I finished my studies here in Vienna at the Music and Arts University.
Okay, wow, that's a long path to go. But you told us in the beginning that you also work as a composer. Can you give us a little overview on how you start working on a new project and what are your influences maybe?
Yeah, so I start working on projects basically based off of inspiration. For me, it is a process in which I am walking down the street maybe and some idea really strikes me. Or, I might be, doing anything and then I get just kind of an inspiration to write something. And for me, it's when I write, I am actually trying to communicate something about life, about the world that we live in. I think that that's very important in music, that it encapsulates the world.
So I know for a fact that you've worked with lots of musicians in the past and also all over the world. Is there a moment where you say, okay, that I will never forget my entire life?
Well, yeah, the first concert I ever conducted. Of course, this is something that I'm going to always remember. It was a student ensemble, and I was also obviously a student conductor. But this was the very first time, the very first opportunity, and so this is something I will never forget. But then there are also other highlights, the first time working with a professional orchestra, or the first time working with your own orchestra. And, there are highlights within that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you came to Vienna to finish your studies.
Yeah.
When was that?
It was a few years ago. I can't remember exactly when. So it would have been, what, like 2017 or something like this?
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
something like this, yeah.
And how do you like it in Vienna?
I love Vienna. It's a beautiful city, and it's, of course, full of history, and especially music history. And so you walk and you have inspiration everywhere. Yeah.
So it is really like that Vienna is the city of music, because I am from Vienna, I'm from Austria, and I love Vienna, don't get me wrong, but I somehow cannot appreciate it as much as people who do not live here do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a city of music. It's definitely, I mean, it goes from the time of Mozart until today. It's really one of these things where there's just so much musical history everywhere, and so it's a wonderful place to live.
And you've also done a lot in Vienna, and you also founded an orchestra. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so it basically happened during the Corona times, in the early days. I was asked to conduct a concert for the G20 Economic Summit, and so we put together an orchestra of 20 musicians from the 20 G20 countries. And it was recorded and broadcast for this forum, this economic forum, and we actually continued after that. And so we then had concerts for the Austrian consulate in Italy. We had concerts with the U.S. Embassy and performed at Musikverein, at Konzerthaus, and have some very exciting projects coming up over the course of the next year as well, which I will not talk about right now. But so this is basically how it started and what we've been doing in the time since.
Okay,
Yeah.
and where can we find it online, your Nova Orchestra Wien?
YouTube.
On YouTube,
Yeah.
okay, great.
And we also have a website, of course, for the orchestra, nowsymphony.com.
Okay.
Because, Nova Orchestra Wien, N-O-W, now. And so Now Symphony.
Okay, great. They say that the Now Orchestra makes a bridge between tradition and innovation. What does that mean?
Yeah, so of course, being in Vienna, as I was talking about, has this very long and deep history going back really to, hundreds of years, going back really before the Baroque era to the Renaissance. And so it has, of course, then a long tradition, and you have the footsteps of Haydn and Mozart and Beethoven and Brahms and Mahler and Bruckner and Strauss, and you can just keep going on and on and on with the names. And so there's a very strong tradition, and so we want to be a part of this tradition, and we also want to make some, you could say, innovations in terms of different aspects of what we do as a part of the concert practice, while still maintaining this very deep tradition. Yeah.
Okay. So many magazines wrote a lot about you, and they talk about you in den höchsten Tönen, which we say in Austria. So they talk about you in a really positive way. And let me read it out. The classic Begeistert described you as a master of intense sound waves and pioneering spirits, and the Northside Sun, calls you a modern-day maestro. How does that feel?
Well, how does it feel? I don't really know. I don't really think about what's written as much.
Okay.
I just am focused on making music and trying to touch audiences.
I know from lots of musicians that they, when they become more successful, they get to a moment where they think, okay, wow, I made it now. Have you had that moment?
I haven't had that moment, and I don't think that I ever will have that moment, because I am always going to try to, I don't think that there's a making it. I think that, there's always trying to go to the next level and always trying to, even if you do a certain piece a million times, you're still trying to make it even better. There's no such thing as perfection, but you're always striving for perfection at the same time. So it's,
it's about the progress, right?
It's a circle. It's or a cylinder. It just you continue on and going up, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a really nice metaphor. I like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this what you dreamed about? I mean, as a child, you were like dreaming about becoming a conductor and being who you are today?
Well, I don't think that I really thought so much about it. I just enjoyed music.
Okay.
I just enjoyed listening to music and sitting and playing at the piano some things. I'm not a pianist, but I did learn piano a bit. And so I enjoyed these things.
When is the next concert?
Well, I have a concert coming up actually quite soon in the U.S., but the next concert I really want to share is the next Nova Orchestra Wien concert here in Vienna at the Concerthaus. It will be on the 11th of March.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So these are the perfect closing words. Come see the Nova Orchestra in Vienna on 11th March. Thank you for watching. This was William Garfield Walker at TV21.